Alright, welcome back. I need to put a little break in there because this shit sucks. I don't even know. The input is so bad here that I don't even know if I did that right. Like, it gives you, it's the quick time events, and normally you'd think with a quick time event it should be really clear whether you succeeded or failed, right? But it kind of isn't. Like, these are okay because if I'm not clicking, then I'm not hitting him, and if I don't hit space, then I take damage. But, like, did I make that one? Was that one good or bad? That one seemed like a fail to me, but I think I hit the right button. I don't know if he actually if he actually aims at me there, or it's just a default pattern. This is so stupid. I'm not even looking. The other thing is, I'm not even, like, a quick time event should be 1, or maybe 2 or 3 if you're getting real crazy with it, right? Oh, I'm supposed to hammer that. Well, apparently... Oh, God. Again, no clear indicator whether I'm doing the right input or not. Did we finish the fight? No. It's not clear there either. So the problem, the QuickTime events historically, especially in the like mid-2000s when they were very popular, you get up to maybe 3, right? Like it's a 15-second event at most. Because the whole point is to surprise you. See if you're on your toes, see if you know your control scheme, all that stuff. But this is a different thing. This is just bad inputting, right? Because I'm not even looking at the game. I'm looking at the place where the icon is for the thing I need to press. Because if I input it wrong, I lose health and the whole thing... Did I hit it? Yeah, I did. Okay. And then, like, all of this plays out here again. I'm hitting right mouse button, which I don't know why it's 2. Just called it RMB. That's what it is on everything else. But it's hard to tell whether I'm actually doing it right until his head pops, I guess. Then, in theory, he's probably gone, right? Who fucking knows?
Will you be joining us soon, brother?
It's fucking ballsy, just grabbing the, you know, warp nuclear thing and just snapping it open, snapping it in half. Crazy.
Look there, Ultramarine. You have saved this world. I see that Ultramarines are human, after all.
More than you know, Lieutenant.
So, if you're not already familiar with that icon, that's the Inquisition. They've got their big eye insignia. And then something that I don't think is mentioned at any point is those are Black Templars who are not Inquisition. But we'll get into it.
His injuries appear chaos inflicted. You are certain of this charge?
Captain Titus has been corrupted by chaos, Inquisitor Thrax.
I am no heretic.
You lie! Only an agent of chaos could withstand such warp exposure.
You're such a little bitch.
Sent the demon to oblivion. But did you have unholy assistance? We must know. You will submit to my authority, Captain, or the Inquisition must conclude that you have corrupted every Ultramarine under your command.
This guy is not
to mention those who stand at your side.
a space marine, by the way. He's not an Astartes. He's a normal human.
Ignore his threats.
Or, well, at least not subject to the same
The
Astartes
Inquisition
process.
will destroy you, Mira, and the Ultramarines will be forever dishonored. Leave my brothers and the lieutenant alone. I will come with you. I do not know why I can resist the touch of chaos, but I swear I will discover the truth.
We will discover many truths, Space Marine.
Codex Astartes
Such a
leaves
bitch.
No room for doubt.
No, that's
You cannot
not
take
how
what
this
the
works.
nerd
That's
comes
not
from.
even what the Codex Astartes says.
Astartes is a set of rules. They guide us, shape us as Ultramarines, teach us to hold duty and honor sacred above all. But how we live with those rules is the true test of a Space Marine. And you have failed.
Yeah, so a bunch of problems here. Some of them just like some of them intentional, some of them unintentional. So the Black Templars are a normal Space Marine chapter. Those are the guys surrounding the Inquisitor. Which is interesting because the Inquisition has its own, like, pseudo-Astartes. That's the end of the game, by the way. The Inquisition has its... We'll watch this, actually. Strategic access secured, ongoing status, quarantined by order of Inquisitor Thrax. Recommended course of action. Investigate Ultramarines, Captain Titus for evidence of heresy. Of course. Why not? So, we'll go through the credits as we usually do. So, a couple of problems there. It is curious, and I don't know if it's for an actual narrative reason or if it's just for fan service, that the Black Templars are there. The Black Templars are a descendant chapter of a Loyalist Space Marine Legion, Loyalist Astartes Legion, who act as a normal chapter. In fact, they are not a Codex Astartes compliant chapter, if I recall correctly. And part of that is they're super devout, and they like working with the Inquisition a lot, which is not supposed to be their job, but who's gonna tell a chapter to not show up? Especially to the Inquisition, who basically, as I've mentioned before, wield ultimate power. They can do whatever they want, and anyone who objects to them is immediately also branded an enemy of them and of the Imperium. So standing up to them is an act of insanity. Same with what we just saw with Titus submitting to them. Even though he knows they're completely wrong, he's basically recognizing that there's nothing they can do. Now, what the Codex Astartes actually said, before we get to that, the reason it's interesting the Black Templars are there is because the Inquisition has its own militant arm, or part of its militant arm, which is the Grey Knights, who are functionally basically Astartes. I don't believe they're actually Astartes by process. They're just super heavily armored, enhanced humans. So they are already pretty well equipped and militarily competent in their own right. So when the Black Templars show up, usually it means they've either got like some personal shit they're dealing with, or they've been called upon by the Inquisition because they want to flex. Because the Inquisition wants to flex, because they love flexing. They're all about, you know, their ultimate power and shit. So, as for submitting, what was I saying before? So, Titus submits to the Inquisition because he knows there's no point in fighting them. If anything, that's like a pretty good indicator for everyone involved, or should be, that he's continuing to be a loyalist. What's interesting about the Codex Astartes is that, what the fuck is his name? Is Leonidas? Is that what his name? Or I don't know. Whatever. The dickhead there who reported Titus to the Inquisition should not have done that for a whole bunch of reasons, but it's even within the text of the Codex Astartes and is brought up multiple times in other pieces of media that the Codex Astartes explicitly calls for members of a chapter to report any issues like suspicion of heresy to their chaplain, not to the Inquisition. Now, why would that be the case? Because the Inquisition are dicks, and all of the Astartes, even the Ultramarines, the so-called goody two-shoes boys, even they know they don't want anything to do with the Inquisition, because all the Inquisition does is make a mess and get in their way. And the more the Inquisition looks at any given Astartes chapter, or you know, grander group of Astartes, the more trouble they're going to have in the long term. So the Codex Astartes explicitly calls for everybody to be like, everybody chill. If there's some shit going on, don't talk to the Inquisition. Like, it's like, don't call the cops, man. Like, first report it to like your manager or whatever. Like, the right move is not calling the cops, calling the FBI, calling the CIA. That's an insane move to make for a whole bunch of reasons. Not the least of which is just like, I don't know, the Inquisition is so rabid and insane in their behaviors and decisions and willingness to jump on anything at the tiniest hint that, like, yes, Titus has been exposed to a bunch of chaotic energy and these other things, but anyone with any sense should be able to see that there is at least some question, because he's, you know, I don't know, killing a pre-Demon Prince guy, you know, and killing hundreds of demons and Chaos Marines and, you know, Chaos Guardsmen and stuff like that. Like, maybe there's some nuance to be had there, rather than saying from the very beginning, Leandros, that's his name, Leonidas, rather than saying from the beginning, oh, you touched chaos and didn't immediately die, you must be chaotic. So I am aware now. This was not the case before I started this playthrough, because when I started this playthrough, the game had not come out yet. I've had a little bit spoiled about Space Marine 2. I know a little bit about what happens to Titus. God damn it, I thought I turned that off. Sorry about the background noise. I thought I knew, or I already know slightly what happens to Titus, at least in the early bit of the sequel game, which is interesting in its own right. I'm not going to actually talk about that at all, because I don't want any more spoilers than I've already had, and I don't want to give anyone else spoilers. However, I will say that I think it's an interesting choice, because it seems to me to be a pretty clear pivot from how this game ends. that it's sort of in line, but probably not what the original concept was intended to be, because the narrative that plays out at the beginning of the sequel game just doesn't quite line up with this. It could in theory, but it's not the direct line of things that would probably happen to Titus, interpreting from what happens here at the end. Is there anything else I should comment on about this game? I think I've been pretty consistent talking about it as we go through. I am glad this game exists. And I'm glad that the sequel came out as well. And by all accounts, the sequel seems to have done extraordinarily well and really broadened the appeal and accessibility of Warhammer. I was about to dip into something else. Go watch my Rants and Raves video about gatekeeping if you want more on that. But I am glad that there is more 40K content coming out. I'm glad that it seems like in my cursory knowledge of the sequel, that they seem to be interested in writing better narratives. This is a very gameplay heavy game, right? Like, the narrative is very simple. There's not a lot going on. You go to planet, it is overrun with orcs, you shoot a bunch of orcs, then you find out there's some evil experiments going on, because there always is. It's just a question of whether there are evil experiments or they're evil experiments. Turns out it's a bit of both. Then you get your chaos reveal, then you fight chaos, then you kill big chaos bad guy who looks ugly, so you want to hate him. My impression is that there are a lot of other things, including Space Marine 2, that seem to be writing more nuanced narratives, giving more character development, more actual, voice acting and writing time and stuff like that. And to me, that's always been the appeal of Space Marines, or of Warhammer 40K in general, is I am much less, I don't know, there's a lot of people whose interest begins and ends at Space Marine cool, shoot big gun, look fancy, kill evil monster things. And I don't want to state too strongly here. That is fine. Mostly. There are some folks who did I talk about this before in this? The whole point of Warhammer 40K is it's a huge satire. Like, the whole thing is a criticism of, like, totalitarian regimes and how good intentions get corrupted, and how that the long view of history proves that if you don't guard goodness carefully, good intentions become evil very quickly, or can be corrupted very quickly, and self-righteousness can turn into just horrible evil at very short notice. And some people really don't get that, and some of the people who only like Space Marine because cool shoot gun good are missing that it's a satire and take it very seriously. And there's no way I'm going to reach out to those people, but please recognize and encourage other people in the community to understand that the entire IP is a joke, and it's about tragedy, really. The entirety of Warhammer 40K is in many ways like just many Greco-Roman tragedies in form. They are about failure when good well-meaning people failing and doing bad things, and the tragedy of them failing to recognize their own place and their own contribution to sometimes the very things that they promised not to do, not to be part of. And yeah. So my love of 40K really comes from the narratives that can come out of that. I think that the IP is fascinating because it has a ton of depth and it has a ton of really, really good writing. Some of it's not so good. It's not all good, that's for sure. I mean, they've written hundreds of books at this point. If you're only thinking about the novels and stuff, they've still written hundreds of books. And of course, those are going to run the gamut. But some of them are really, really good fiction. And recognize exactly what the universe is supposed to be. So, I am hopeful that going forward, that Warhammer continues to spread, but also continues to be recognized for what it's intended to be. That's not read at face value. That a game like this, which I think up until basically that very end scene, maybe a few other moments in between, can be read only as, you know, big man shoot gun good. And if you're not careful and you're not tuned into what's happening in that last scene, the good intentions being punished, you know, kind of narrative thing going on here, and the corruption of one's own faction, you'll miss the point. So I'm just hopeful that Space Marine 2 and many things that will come out after this, as obviously it has become more popular in recent years, I hope those narratives are nuanced and they are read with I hope they're read with good literary skills and social comprehension. Am I probably too hopeful? Am I probably too optimistic? Maybe. But if you're a 40K fan, if you even just liked this game, if you liked watching this, then, you know, I think it's everybody's responsibility to encourage good media literacy, as I've talked about many times before. Good media literacy and nuanced interpretations of narratives. That said, this game is rough. It has not aged terribly, but it was not that great to begin with. And maybe at some point I'll go back at this with a controller just to see how much of the pain I suffered was because of mouse and keyboard. But there are fundamental things in here that are just a bit too busted. Anyway, I could watch Titus shoot orcs all day, but it seems to be the same 3 orcs, or same couple of orcs. So I think we'll end it on that. Thank you guys for watching this with me, coming along with this journey. I hope you've taken something positive away from it, and let me know your thoughts on, I don't know, the game in general, 40K as a narrative, as an entity, or just this last fight, which has been miserable. It was shorter than I remembered, but it was about as bad as I remembered. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys for something else next time.